JessConstantino, yeah. Hello, my beautiful YouTube family. Welcome back to my channel. My name is JessConstantino, and today I wanted to talk to you about something that's very important to me. I want to talk to you about domestic violence. As someone who has experienced domestic violence, I can tell you that it is very hard to even admit to yourself that there's a problem. You don't want to think that the person that you love and have chosen to spend your life with, or chosen to share your intimate life with, would harm you. Unfortunately, there are some crazy statistics that involve domestic violence, and I want to share them with you today. So, this is all just in general for the regular population, but people that have disabilities are affected by domestic violence, and sometimes more often, because they have a disability, they are targeted for domestic violence. The average statistics for domestic violence is 1 in every 3 women will experience domestic violence, and 1 in every 4 men will experience domestic violence. It is really hard to gather these numbers because people don't often report domestic violence. When I was in college, I worked at the counselor center because I had been affected by and I wanted to give back to the community that had helped me pick myself up again. While I worked at the counselor center, I realized that very few people report a violent experience. And if you know the person, it's even less likely that it will be reported. I hate to think that, but also it affects men a lot because men don't feel like they should report weaknesses, or they feel like it is not something that they should really admit that happened to them, or they're just embarrassed or ashamed, which when you have already suffered violence at the hands of somebody that you love, or even somebody that you don't, it can be humiliating to have to stand up and say, hey, this happened to me. I found that the reason that more women are known to have domestic violence problems than men isn't always accurate, because men just don't report it as much as women do. But it actually goes to show you that men do experience quite a bit of it, since it's like 28% of men in the United States have reported domestic violence, and 35% of women have reported domestic violence. There's not a huge gap in those numbers. It is very small, the gap between how many women and how many men actually report it. I think it's embarrassing for anybody. Nobody wants to admit that they were duped by somebody that they care about. Domestic violence is a really hard subject. And for me, I know that I was able to sustain physical abuse for over a year, and it didn't really get to me until the emotional started. And that was when I decided that I couldn't handle it anymore. For me, physical abuse was easier to sustain because I have lived in so much pain my whole life with my eyes. My pain tolerance is pretty high, so I could handle somebody throwing me around or hitting me. I couldn't handle somebody controlling me and hurting me emotionally. The last straw for me was when my ex-husband didn't come to my eye surgery. I had an eye surgery and it went really well, but I did not hear from my husband. He did not come to the surgery at all. He did not care to be there to take care of me afterwards. Didn't even call to check in on me for over a week. And that really upset me, because what if something had happened to me during surgery? He would have never known it, and he would have never cared. When I got back home, I tried to continue on the way that things had been going, and we got in a really bad fight one day, and he told me I was worthless. And I just remember looking at him and saying, I'll show you how worthless JessConstantino is. And that's really how I felt. I did not want to stay in a situation where I was being taken for granted and controlled and manipulated. It got to be too much for me, where I felt like I was just not worth anything anymore. It completely destroyed my self-esteem. It took me into a very severe depression, and it was very hard for me to actually admit it to anybody. I didn't admit it to even my closest friends and family what was going on with me. For over a year, I went to a lawyer, and it was one of the hardest things I ever did, going to a lawyer and having to explain to somebody what I had been through. I was afraid that nobody would believe me. People would take his side. I was afraid that I would be told that I was overreacting or blowing things out of proportion. I was terrified that nobody would feel sympathy for me. Nobody would want to help me get out of the situation I was in, or that nobody would even think that I was in a bad situation and that I was creating something. It took everything that I had inside of me, all of the strength, to stand up for myself and say, this is not right. I can't live this way anymore, and I deserve happiness. I have since then, every single day before I go to sleep, I do positive affirmations so that it stays fresh inside my mind, and it lives inside me that I am worthwhile, that I deserve happiness, that I deserve love, I deserve to be healthy, I deserve to be in a good relationship. Those things seem very easy to say and to tell yourself, but when somebody has twisted the way that you think about yourself, it's not always easy to think that way. It is very difficult to stop and say, these are negative thought patterns, let me change them into positive thought patterns. And I have found that a good way to not even let myself get that far into that kind of a situation again is to have the self-confidence to say, I'm worthwhile in the beginning. And if you tell yourself that over and over and over and over on a daily basis, you will start to believe it. And trust me, you person watching this, you deserve happiness. You deserve love. You deserve to be in a good, healthy relationship. And if you are not, you really should get some help, because it is very important that you make a stand for yourself. Don't let somebody continue to hurt or abuse you. Don't let somebody continue to manipulate or control you. These are not healthy parts of a relationship. Domestic violence is defined as somebody who is an intimate partner who manipulates, controls, belittles, or otherwise harms their partner. This can be done with physical force. This can be done with emotional and verbal through sexual violence. And it is so important that we recognize these signs in our relationships if they start happening. As visually impaired and blind people, we tend to shy away from confrontation. I know, because I have done it almost my whole life. I have found that I just want to blend in, and I have met many blind and visually impaired people who also have the tendency to be passive and shy away from disagreements and confrontation. I feel like it is a lot easier to manipulate and control somebody who has a disability, usually physically look like they are disabled. So they are spotted by people that are predators. And unfortunately, there are predators out there that look like wolves in sheep's clothing, where you may not know that somebody is a predator, somebody looking for somebody to control or manipulate or harm. And I don't want to see any of my audience have to go through the pain and suffering that I have been through. That doesn't seem right. And especially if you don't have the self-esteem and the confidence to say, hey, I deserve better than this, it's even harder to recognize. And I know for me that I definitely have struggled most of my life with being self-assured and confident and not feeling like a burden on those around me. So I'm willing to put up with a little extra stuff. I don't like to see people of any state, any status, trying to fight through domestic violence. but especially somebody that's visually impaired and in my community, I hate to see somebody in my community being hurt or manipulated or controlled. It's not fair and it's not right. And even if the person who is the abuser is in the disabled community as well, it can happen. People try to find control in very many ways. So don't ever think that it can't happen to you. It can happen to anyone. We all have the capability of looking past flaws and negative traits in people and getting attached to people that aren't very healthy for us. As someone who has been in many bad relationships, I can tell you that it is very easy to overlook negative traits, especially when you don't have the self-confidence to say, hey, I am worthwhile and I deserve to be happy. If you or someone you know is struggling with domestic violence, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline number at 1-800-799-7233. Please don't sit by and just let it happen. Take a stand for yourself. Stand up, say, I am worth more than this. I deserve to be happy, and I'm going to fight to have the kind of life and relationship that I want to have, instead of settling for something that's bad or negative or could hurt me in the long run. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure you hit the notification bell so you get a notification every time I release a video. If you want to see some shorts, you can go over and check out my JessConstantino Shorts channel. And if you guys want to subscribe to my Blue Jay community, you can go to patreon.com/JessConstantino, and you guys will get access to bonus material that nobody else gets access to on this channel. You will get access to a special community where I will give announcements to you guys first and before anybody else. You will get private messages from me. You can have a way to access and talk to me. You will have access to extra content, and I really hope that you guys will come and join the Blue Jay community and help support Cooper and I so that we can continue making more content for all of you beautiful people. If you want to keep up with Cooper and I in other ways, you can check out my Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. There you will find more posts about mine and Cooper's lives on a daily basis. And all of that will be linked in the description below. So make sure you go and check that out. And thank you so much for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, or you have any suggestions for anything that I've talked about today or in any other videos, you can leave them all in the comments below. I always love to read your comments. I will answer every single one of them, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Love you guys. For more sneak peeks into a blind mom's life, please subscribe to my channel.
Yes, sir. I'm Pineapple Production. Yeah!